You are listening to the 5 a.m. podcast, and today is your day. Good morning, early risers and ambitious leaders. Welcome to another enlightening episode of the 5 a.m. podcast. Today, we are joined by a man known as the accountability dude, Robert J. Hunt. Robert ranks in the top 1% of podcast guests globally. He brings an infectious energy and practical wisdom to every conversation. He's the co-author of the book Nobody Cares Until You Do. And in it, Robert challenges the conventional understanding of accountability, showing us that true accountability springs from within and becomes the gateway to freedom and personal power. With over 2 decades of experience as a business owner and executive coach, Robert leads CEO groups across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, helping leaders break through barriers and achieve their personal highest potential. Now, a hearty welcome to you wherever you may be listening or watching from. We appreciate you being here. Please consider sharing this with 3 of your friends today. I know many are going to enjoy this conversation. A big thanks to those that gave a 5-star review on their favorite podcast player. And of course, we want to thank those that ventured over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast and bought us a few cups of that delicious virtual coffee this week and last. We appreciate all levels of support. And now, Robert, welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast.
Hello, thank you so much.
It's great to have you here. And we're gonna talk about that book, Nobody Cares Until You Do, which I think is a great title, and somebody needs to care. And you're also known as the accountability guy. So is there a crossover between personal accountability and actually caring?
Yeah, I mean, really in life, if you don't really care, what does it matter? And at some point in your life, you decide if you're going to live the life you really want, or you're just going to try and optimize the one you ended up with. And I looked at my life in 2019 and I realized I was not living the life I want. And I think if you personally care for yourself well, you have the ability to personally care for the world around you. But too often we don't know our identity and we live in a deficit mindset. And those things hold us back from where God could use us in the world. So in my own journey, I realized that nobody's going to care about my problems unless I care enough to do something about it in the first place. And I was living this life in 2019 until my beautiful wife, Kathy, and I decided we were done with being a complainer and blaming God and making excuses for why we didn't have the things that we wanted in the life we wanted. And then we owned it and we turned everything around. And that's the story we talk about in the book.
Wow, that's great. Nobody cares until you do. And that's an engaging and intriguing title. So this gives actually a unique perspective then on, I would say, maybe the broadness of accountability. How does your definition differ from what most other people might think accountability means?
Accountability in its simplest terms means you own it. And when you look at your life and the things that you're doing, and whether it's relationships, your finances, your business, your health, your faith, whatever it is, you got to own it. That's what accountability looks like. But for too long, we've become very comfortable not owning it. And we play the role as a victim, but we've done it for so long that we don't even recognize it anymore. It's very commonplace in the world. When something goes bad that you don't like and you don't want to deal with it, you blame. You blame the government, you blame God, you blame your coworkers and your family. If that doesn't work, you make excuses for things as to why it didn't work out. And, oh, I tried, but I don't know how to do this. And all the things that we do that just keep us as a victim. If those things don't work, then we end up just saying, I can't do anything about it. It's just not within my control. Or we wait and hope. All those 4 things really keep us as a victim. Whereas the power and the freedom comes when you own it. When you own something, when you take accountability for it, you actually gain the power to do something about it. Otherwise, you stay living as a victim and you're helpless and hopeless.
Right. So on this show, we talk a lot about scripture and wisdom principles and ways to peace. And I want to ask, in relation to that notable verse, Matthew 6:33, where it says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. That sounds like a great verse. I know for me personally, it's been something that's guided me through life. How does this verse relate to the accountability that you're talking about?
Well, we are accountable to only one person ever, and that's God.
Hmm.
We can try to be accountable to other people, but we could lie to them. We can get away with it. They could give us a blank check to not do what we're supposed to do. The
Right.
only person you will ever be accountable to is for God, and you will be accountable. Those of us who've been redeemed, who have a personal relationship with Christ, we are responsible for everything we do, good or
Hmm.
bad, from the day that we were redeemed. And so that accountability is legit, but we don't live like it. We know that at some point we're going to stand before God, and that we're supposed to work to build his kingdom on earth, and that we're supposed to do everything about him and prioritize him. And we know we're going to be accountable, but we don't live like it. We focus on our kingdom and building our own kingdom on earth.
Hmm.
We focus on what I want the most, what's important to me. And I think it's that lack of reality check. You are going to be accountable for the life you live. And
Hmm.
certainly right now, things that we do, we eat the consequences of it, whether we like it or not. I think the problem is we get away with stuff too often, that we think like I can just keep doing it because God hasn't struck me dead with a lightning bolt yet.
Right.
So it's clearly going to work to continue to do it. But not only are you're stacking up the moments where God says that's enough and now you got to eat it, but you're missing the
Yeah.
opportunity that God has redeemed you for, of
Right.
which you will also be accountable for. So we as you have a unique role in our world too, that we are accountable to God. And I think that's a
Right.
big deal.
Yeah, it sure is. So then this brings up a topic I was chatting about with a friend of mine over the weekend of honor, the value of honoring each other and acting in honor. And so making decisions. It seems to me that there's actually this connectedness between honoring people, honoring ourselves, honoring God, and this accountability. Could you talk about that connection?
What's another word to define honor? Because I want to make sure I'm using the context you're
Sure.
looking at it.
Yeah. I would be thinking in terms of esteeming and respecting individuals based on their inherent value and their contribution to our lives, of seeing people as valuable gifts that have come to us. And so it would be not so much honoring based on title or position, but based on that individual spark of life and intellect that God has given everyone who comes across our path.
Okay, so in light of that term of honoring and how you're applying
Hmm.
it here, you're asking how does accountability reflect to that?
Yeah, and impact or maybe help us to honor those around us.
Again, back to the responsibility that you're going to be standing before God at some
Hmm.
point, and he's going to hold you accountable to what you've done with your life. When it comes to honoring other people, you're doing it not out of whether they deserve it or not. You're
Yes.
doing it out of the fact you're supposed to represent God, that we're supposed to be a light
That's good.
to the world, that we're supposed to represent the life that Jesus lived. So I honor you because it honors the Lord. I honor you because you're in a place of authority. Let's take the President of the United States for right now. Whether
Hmm.
you voted for him and you like him or not, he's the President of the United States, just like when Biden was the President of the United States. And whether you voted for him or not,
Yeah.
to honor the role that that person plays is really hard for a lot of people when there's so much emotion that's going on these days.
Hmm.
Take the policemen. Do you like the policemen? Are they perfect? Do they make great decisions all the time? How do you honor the policemen? How about teachers? How about anyone in authority?
Hmm.
There are so many places where we have become so comfortable talking crap about people and just being plain old mean.
Yeah.
We forget that there's a responsibility before God to honor those in authority, our
Hmm.
parents, the police officers, the teachers, the government. Does that mean we do whatever they say? No, but we respect the role they play. We honor them by the way we talk to
Hmm.
them. This vile anger that comes out of
Yeah.
people at these other, because they can and because they don't get arrested, and because in America you're free to be as mean as you want to be and be
Right.
as rude as you want to be, and so we do that. But we're forgetting that we're supposed to represent God, and we
Hmm.
again will be accountable for the way that we treat other people and
Right.
whether we honor them or not.
Yeah, that's great. Good words to live by, that's for sure. What practical steps can someone take to develop this internal drive when they're maybe primarily in the past have relied on external accountability?
Well, the external accountability is a threat, right? And nobody likes to
Hmm.
live with a life of
No,
threat.
that's
And
right.
a lot of times we look at the word accountability like, I'm going to hold you accountable, and if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you or whatever. And
Hmm.
and that never works. But at some point, just like any other initiative you take in your life, there's a motivation to want to do it. For my beautiful wife, Kathy, and I, we realized that we weren't living the life we wanted to. And the pain of where we were was so bad that we were willing to make big changes. And I suppose it's like an alcoholic who gets to that last part of their life and says, I'm in the gutter. I got nothing less to lose. I'm willing to make the change. So at some point, you have to decide what you want to do. And the
Mhm.
internal motivation for accountability is that you have the power and freedom to change everything in your life. There
Right.
is nothing that
Wow.
is outside of your ability if you own it. If you don't own it and you're a victim, you're helpless. But when you realize you actually have the power to do something about it,
Uh-huh.
I find great power and freedom in that, and that should be very motivating.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how does this genuine accountability maybe transform a leader's effectiveness? And are there some specific behaviors that distinguish an accountable leader from maybe one who just kind of puts his time in or her time in, just talks about accountability?
Yeah, everybody knows whether you're accountable or not because your behavior, right?
Yes.
When I
Oh,
talk with business owners and they ask, well, how do we build a culture of accountability? It starts with you. It
mhm.
starts with you modeling it. It's just like we do at home with our kids. If we want them to be a certain way, we have to model it. We can't just tell them what to do. We have
Mhm.
to actually be that person so they
Right.
see it lived out. So if you, as the owner or leader of your company, you want to create a culture of accountability, it starts with you. And some of the things that we can do as leaders is just put it in writing and
Mhm.
agree to be reviewing it with our teams. They don't hold you accountable. You're holding yourself accountable. And the way you're doing it is said, this is what we're going to do. Here's the plan in writing. And here's our goals, here's our key metrics, here's what we're going to accomplish in this time frame. SMART goals, specific, measurable, all
Mhm.
those things.
Yeah.
And then you review it with the team. You allow yourself to be vulnerable. I say, hey, by the end of this month, I'm going to have this done. And now you have peer pressure because your whole company has looked at what
Right.
you committed to do. So you're
Yeah.
creating the opportunity for accountability by being open and honest about what you're doing. But a lot of leaders don't want to do that because A, they don't know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And they haven't got a plan. They'll tell you when you do it wrong, but they won't tell you what to go do it proactively,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is really what accountability is. It's a proactive nature to what we do. And
Wow.
and so if you're going to be a great leader that creates a world of accountability, declare it to the team, put it in writing, and then bring back up on a regular basis. Here's our progress.
Wow.
Here's what we're doing, and you model the behavior that you want them to have.
Gold prices have historically risen during economic uncertainty. The time is now. Visit mindstantgold.com. Well, that's great. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're listening, we've got that comment section. Whether you're on Spotify, Apple, or Good Pods, even YouTube, we have that comment section. Absolutely put something in there about a time where you realized the light switch came on for you, that you really needed to take some ownership and some accountability. We would love to hear from you. And you know, Robert, as you're talking about the SMART goals and the accountability, and uh, when I don't know, over the years that we've had 5ampodcast.com, our biggest free download that we had was our SMART goal worksheet.
Mm.
And we thought, well, it's just one piece of paper. We actually need to turn it into a workbook and vision journal, which we're in the process of doing. We're probably about 30 pages out of 75 that it'll be. The reason I bring up the workbook is because we added a section on accountability,
Oh, great.
and not just celebrating your wins and having benchmarks, but actually having an accountability partner of who is going to be that one that's going to hold you to account on how your SMART goals are going. And so
Can
in
I
that,
make a
yeah.
comment on that real
Oh
quick?
yeah, please do.
So I don't believe that I don't believe anyone can hold you accountable. We use
Mm,
that phrase a lot. I know what your heart is when you say that, but
yeah.
nobody can hold anyone accountable
Wow.
because I could
Mm,
lie to them. And we do often. And so if you're going to be really truly accountable, have an accountability partner, you have to
right.
put it in writing and be transparent enough about your struggles to be really vulnerable with what's going
Mm,
on to let them help you. But
mm-hmm.
you have to be honest. And if you lie, it doesn't work. So really all you're doing is you're creating a relationship that
Wow.
allows you to be accountable to yourself. They're
Mm,
just walking with you. Because what we do sometimes is we put the pressure on the person who's holding us accountable. Like they're supposed to babysit us. How come you didn't call me and ask me if I was watching porn? It's not my
yeah.
job to babysit you. It's your job to not watch porn
Yeah.
and to
Right.
figure out what it is that causes you to trip up and how to
Yeah.
plan not to do that. And
Yeah.
so since you need to own it, you need to be the one that's considering I am holding myself accountable because I
Yeah.
want it really bad. And I'm inviting you into my journey to watch me and encourage me and pray for me and challenge
Mm-hmm.
me. But I will do all the work. All you got to do is ask the question. Because if
Right.
I'm going to lie, it doesn't work. And it's
Yeah.
really, we got to keep ourselves, the awareness is on us and not what that partner is going to do for us.
Oh, wow. That's great. Those are really, really good words. It makes me think of the word repent, which we hear a lot in Christian circles. And it really, the only thing we ever have to repent from are those things that lead to death. There's like nothing that leads to life. Like Jesus said in John 10:10, I've come that you might have life and have it abundantly. And the enemies come to steal, kill, and destroy. And so when the only things we really are on that repent list is the things that steal, kill, and destroy.
Which is a lot. There's a
Yes.
lot out there.
Yes. So I want to ask you then about common barriers in your executive coaching practice. What are some of those common barriers that you've seen that prevent those high potential leaders from fully embracing accountability? And how do you help them overcome these obstacles?
Well, so the first one is that most people think they're being accountable when they're
Hmm.
really just being responsible. And there's a big difference.
Wow.
Responsible is doing something, accountable is doing the thing, and
Wow.
you own the result at the end. And
Hmm.
accountable is proactive. Responsible is there's a problem, I'll fix it. And that's the knee-jerk reaction to whatever comes your way. But accountable is saying there's going to be a potential for a problem, so here's what I'm going to do ahead of time. We think about things, so we
Hmm.
plan for them. If you know you're going to have turnover rate with your employees, you
Yeah.
have to then proactively create an environment where they want to stay, a chance
Hmm.
for them to be heard, a normal update and review to hear what's going on in their life,
Right.
constant training, team engagement. You have to do all that proactively if you hope to keep a good employee. And
Right.
and what we do is we wait till someone says, I'm out of here, I'm quitting. And then we try and figure out, oh, okay, I'm responsible. I'll figure this out. But you should have been accountable and proactively creating a
Wow.
place where they don't want to leave in the first place. It's a big difference. But a lot of people I meet think they're being really accountable, but they're really just being responsible.
Wow. So as I'm sitting here in our home studio, I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm thinking, wow, responsible is when the faucet breaks and it stops working and it gets past the honey-do list to replacing it out of necessity. But
Yeah.
accountability actually is that going through and doing the regular maintenance so
Yeah.
that you don't have those all of a sudden, oh, now I've got to be a responsible adult and
Yeah, I'll take one even bigger than that. You know,
okay.
there's a statistic that came out from the IRS that said that more than 60% of Americans will face their last days and need someone else to help them survive.
Huh.
And yet we have like 50 years to plan for our retirement. We know at some point we will not be able
Mhm.
to work anymore. It
Yeah.
happens to everyone. And then you die, right? And so
Yeah.
we know we're going to die, but we also know there's going to be a time between the time I no longer can contribute to my own revenue and the
Uh-huh.
time I die. And so you're foolish if you don't plan for that. How much?
Yeah.
I don't know, but some. And so
Yeah.
what happens is you get people, 60% of America gets to the age where they can no longer generate enough revenue to live by and they need someone else, the government or some family member, to
Right.
cover them to survive. That to me is showing a lack of accountability, proactively
Mhm.
knowing I will get to a place where some day I will not be able to work anymore for health reasons, or I'm old, or they don't need me, or whatever, and I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything about it. That is irresponsibility. That is not being accountable for the fact that you're
Mm.
going to face that in the future.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's great advice. It reminds me of a conversation I had with Dr. Murray Sabrin of the Mises Institute a little while back. He was talking about he would give this speech to his university students, and he and I talked just exactly the same thing of that we didn't use the word accountability, but taking that accountability for your future, your financial future. And so we actually have a lot of listeners who are 18 to 24 and 25 to 33. We have a huge bulk in our demographics of men in that age group. And so one of the things that Dr. Sabrin and I talked about, not specifically with these numbers, but gentlemen, as you're listening, or ladies, as you're listening, if you're 25, think of $25 on a Monday that goes into a savings account or a mutual fund or an ETF. Stay away from the speculation. I'm no financial advisor, I assure you, but just think of 25 times four every single month. And boy, if you do that, if you're disciplined and accountable, ladies and gentlemen, You won't run into this pitfall that Robert is sharing with us right now about futures. So, Robert, I also want to ask you, based on your years of leading CEO groups, what are the top maybe 3 to 5 practices, or the top 3 practices that you've observed that consistently support thriving CEOs versus the struggling ones?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of things that I could say that are common to everybody,
Uh,
but I think when I think of the CEOs that are truly rocking it and doing
mhm.
well in how they own it, they're always learning because the world's constantly changing. If you're not always learning, then you're falling behind, and I think that's important. They make decisions that they don't always make the right decision or the best decision, but they still make a decision. And that's sometimes it's a tough spot to be in, but you got to make the decision. And the
Right.
third thing is that you own it. That
Yeah.
if you make a decision, you own it. You're not blaming the team. You're not looking for someone else to pick up the slack. You have to make the tough decision, but you got to own the decision that you make.
Right.
And then the fourth thing is they pour into other people. If you're doing the work still, if you're the one doing the majority of the work, you're not building a business, you just have a job. And so if you're really going to build a team that can then continue on after you're gone, you got to pour into people and to
Mhm.
really help them be their best. And then you drive the results through the people. That's the last thing is drive results. You're not winning the net biggest contract, you're not closing the deals, you're not learning teaching them how to do it. You're the one driving the results
Wow.
the way you mentor and care for your team. If you're running in that mindset, you're doing a great job as a CEO.
Wow. That sounds really good. Makes me think of, I know something that I heard when I was much younger, struggling at sales, of the always be closing ABC, but I sure would have liked the always be learning. And it was because I guess I was having trouble with the ABCs that I had to go to the ABL. So
Yeah, no,
that's
we always
good.
got to be learning because everything's changing and people are
Mm,
freaking out about AI these days. And don't be one of those people that worries about it. Go learn about
mhm.
it. You
Yeah.
know, in the 40s when machines were starting to take over manufacturing processes,
Yeah.
everybody said there won't be any more jobs, it'll all be machines. And it didn't. It didn't put us out of business from a hiring humans perspective, but we got more efficient, we could handle more capacity, we
Hmm.
could do more things. And we did allow people to go learn and do other things. And then computers came along. Computers are all going to put us out of business. We need to, oh my gosh,
Right.
we're not going to have any jobs. And now we're at AI. It's going to put us all out of business. And there's this panic. You know, we've got to be realizing that there will still
Hmm.
be adjustment and growth and change, and that we need to learn about this. How do I use this and not be in fear of it? Because it's here to stay.
Right. Yeah, really good words. I was thinking as you're talking about the machines and all those jobs that came up for engineers and millwrights and machinists and that whole supply chain, and just the supply chain continues, whether it was the manufacturing machines or computers and now AI. The world really is at anyone's disposal. I notice on your bookshelf you have the book. Is that Dare to Serve?
Hmm. Yeah, by Cheryl Batchelder.
And was there a takeaway? I don't want to derail this and go off into the weeds, but was there a takeaway from that book that you see that really fits with accountability?
Yeah, you know, she teaches all of her leaders to be able to cast a daring adventure, a vision of a
Mm.
daring adventure
Wow.
for everyone to follow. And it really has taught me something years ago that CEO's number one job is to cast a vision that everyone else gets excited about.
Wow.
Take that term to a leader, regardless of your title. If you're the leader of your home, you must catch, what's the word? Present, cast,
Yeah.
that's the word, cast a vision that your family will get excited about and
Mm.
follow. If you're just trying to heavy hand them and say you're going to obey, you're going to do this, man, the second they're getting old enough to get out, they're going to leave and do whatever they want. But if you create a vision that says this is what it's like to bring the kingdom of God to earth, this is why he redeemed us, do you know how much
Wow.
he loves you? Do you know how special and chosen you are? Find your identity in Christ and live an abundant lifestyle. You create that vision for your family to adopt. So whether they're leader of a company or leader of your home, your number one job is to be that vision caster that gets everyone excited to follow
Yeah.
you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good. I'm glad I asked that question. It's kind of, one of the rules that I've always had in broadcasting is don't ask the questions you don't know the answer to. So I broke my rule. I asked the question I didn't know the answer to.
I could have made
And
something up. That would have been fun.
that's right. So I don't, not that any of my former staff or crew members are listening, but there's a couple people, young reporters, that I told that to when we were prepping for them going to interview a sports player or something like that. And I would say, no, do your research. Don't ask a question you don't know the
Good
answer
point.
to.
Good point.
I want to ask you about the work life balance, because that's something that certainly suffered in our home when I worked in on sports broadcasting, and it's of course it's a common term that we all hear.
Yeah.
Many have likely seen many executives struggle with that work life
Yeah.
balance. How do you help leaders create meaningful, let's say, integration rather than the impossible balance?
Yeah, there is no such thing as work-life balance. We tried to chase this many years ago when I first started doing peer groups. I really wanted my clients to have a life. They were really successful business owners, but every one of them said, I got no time for my family. And I didn't like that mode. And so we tried for years to try and find ways to try and do that effort. So we finally came to the idea that there's no such thing. So let's just create work-life integration where I just be one person everywhere. And that way I can be me at home and me at work. It's there's no transfer. I don't have to amp up to be a jerk at work. I don't have to take
Right.
that jerk back home with me. All these things is just one person. And then we worked on being the one person we wanted to be. Even
Wow.
at that though, it never got to the real core of the problem, which is overload. And I have found that too many people live a life on overload. We did. We had done it for years. And we realized that it's become a normal thing for people to live on overload. So instead of worrying about work-life balance anymore, create a mindset where you're one person everywhere and then work on avoiding overload. And there's four areas of overload that I encourage people to work on: your time, your money, your health, and your emotions. And if you can be focused in creating a world that has room so that there's no problem when something goes wrong, because something always goes
Mm-hmm.
wrong,
Yeah.
then you can be available for God for what he brings into your life. You can care for the world around you. You can enjoy the life that God has given you. And you can be far more creative and productive than you will be when you live a life of overload.
Wow, that's really good. It makes me think of distractions that come into our world. But then when you bring accountability into it, it actually, could you maybe talk about that? How the accountability in this case that you're describing seems to mitigate our response to distractions.
Well, you're accountable for the life that you live. No one
Hmm.
else is going to do it for you. And so if I decide that I want to work on my marriage, I want to be home for my kids, I want to have dinners at night, I want to grow my business, I want to whatever, you own it. Therefore, you have to decide what you're going to do about it. And then there's always going to be something that comes in to try and derail us. But if I don't leave any room in the world, then when anything goes wrong, I hit overload. So the simplest one to understand is your calendar. I have clients who love to go meeting, 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 lunch meeting, 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 dinner meeting, happy hour, go home, do a little, put the kids to bed, go back to work. That's not life. That's not productive. That is living on overload. You have no way of handling when you're going from meeting to meeting
Hmm.
and there's a phone call from a very important client. What do you not take it? Well, now you're late to the next meeting, which causes you to be stressed, causes problems with the team. You show up with a bad attitude because you're already late. The customer directed your time. All these things go on. And the ripple effect of us not creating room for the
Hmm.
unexpected then affects all the world around us, plus especially our emotions. And so we've got to create room in each of those four buckets so that we can have the world that constantly wants to interrupt and derail us, not
Hmm.
knock us to our knees, and not to be able to be used by God when he finds something he wants to use us
Right.
for.
Well, that reminds me of J.D. Rockefeller, how he would say that in his company, every dollar was part of a 100-year plan. Said 100-year plan for every dollar, and it couldn't be spent here because it's in this plan, it's in this bucket, and so we can't use it over there. Anyway, is going from JD Rockefeller to asking about future trends. I guess looking at that emerging workplace trends like remote work and AI integration, and even changing expectations from employees. How do you see the practice of accountability evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we as business owners must be accountable to look at the signs that are coming up to us
Uh-huh.
and proactively do something about it.
Right.
If you can think back to 10 years from now, all of us made fun of and mocked the millennials that were on the horizon.
Right.
It was always a joke about millennials living in their parents' basement and not
Yeah.
wanting to work and all this stuff. And so instead of embracing them and figuring out how do we work with them and to give them the freedom and the opportunity to do well, we mocked them and didn't understand them.
Mm.
Well, now we're facing another generation and another generation, and they just get more and more different because the one we
Right.
abused and the way we welcomed it to the workforce or into the leadership roles
Mm.
has then forced to take their own reins, and they're going to have a way of doing it that could have been different if we had treated them right.
Wow.
So you as the leader of your company, you know the generation coming in is a different generation than the one you replaced or the one you lived and the one that's right after you. And so
Mm.
if you're not proactively planning for it, you're going to eat it. And then you'll be responsible for it, but you'll be
Yes.
trying to on your back of your heels trying to figure out what do I do with all these things? I lost so much, the big brain drain. All these people retired, and now I got a bunch of
Hmm.
squirrely kids, and they don't want to
Yeah.
work hard. Blah blah blah. Hey, that's what it is, dude. Figure out a way to optimize it. Create an
Yeah.
environment where they want to come to work, where they actually self
Mm.
actualize by
Hmm.
being in your company. You know, Maslow's pyramid, where the food and shelter, and that's the trade off of the paycheck. And then the
Yeah.
second tier is if you make me feel significant, then I'll be loyal and I'll take on more leadership. You give me a
Hmm.
promotion, I'll grow. But at the top, it's self actualization. This generation that's coming up, they want to self actualize. They
Mm.
want to find that they find significance in their work, whether it's
Right.
through the work they do or the company they work for or the people they're with. If you're not creating significance in that, it'll be this churn and burn constantly, and you'll lose the
Wow.
good players along the way.
Yes. And I think that's why we have the demographics that we do for this show, because people do want that actualization of themselves and their ability and their significance, and finding that path forward. So I want to ask you then about legacy, beyond the business impact. How do you hope that your message about accountability changes how people approach their, let's say, personal relationships, their spiritual life, and their overall sense of purpose?
Man, I just want people to own it. You know, this
Yeah.
this year our theme is intentional living.
Mm.
And we've just been looking at everything we do and saying, is that what I want my life to look like? Is that what I want my marriage to look like? Is that what I want my health to look like? Is that what I want my days to look like? And we're just being very intentional. And so, man, I
Mm.
just desire that people would decide right now, whatever age you're at, I'm going to own my life. Now, I may have a bad job. Okay, go get another one, work on it. I may not
Yeah.
have enough money. Cut your standard of living in half and save money. I may have problems in my marriage. Go to counseling. You know, everyone who there's always
Wow.
something out there, but we're
Yeah.
not owning it. We're complaining about it, but we're not owning it and doing something about it. And I really want people to leave a legacy that when I look back, I may have had a huge impact or a tiny impact. I may have made a bunch of money or a little bit of money,
Yeah.
but I will have lived the life that I want to live. And for those of us who are Christ followers, I hope that your desire is to live a life that pleases the Lord, that establishes his
Mm.
kingdom on earth, that allows that his light is shining through you in the business world, not at church, but in the business world 5 days a week, that you are out there being a light so that people can understand the hope that is in you. I want you to own that and then create the legacy
Mm.
that looks like that.
Right. So how can our listeners and viewers get in touch with you?
Man, I'm everywhere. You can go on LinkedIn. You can go to nobodycaresbook.com. That's where our book is available for purchase. We also have it on Amazon and Target and Barnes and Noble and all that. But we like you to buy it from us, and
Yes.
we could send you an autographed copy and get you involved in our community. Um, if you're looking to understand more about the principles of leadership that I can help you with, you can go to REF Dallas, like
Hmm.
refdallas.com, and learn about the things I do with business owners and CEOs. I would love to bring this workshop to anyone in the world who wants to have their people understand the principles of accountability. We'll take it on the road anywhere you want us to be.
Wow, that's great. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a conversation. And of course, Robert, thank you for being here. It's
Thank
been
you.
great to hear about your journey. And to our listeners, just a reminder that you can access a lot of valuable tools at that refdallas.com website. And Robert, I'll put it up on the screen, but if you could just say the Nobody Cares book website one more time.
Yeah, it's nobodycaresbook.com.
Great. And so, ladies and gentlemen, just not even a plug for the book, but a kind of a plug to actually buy from the creator I know that we can go to Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other online places, but when we have the opportunity to bless someone who's speaking into our lives, head over to Robert's site and get a copy of that book. It's going to help you. I'm actually going to jump on there and pick one up and have it sent over here, not only for the autograph, but for the information in between the pages. So, Robert, thanks again for being here today and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much, Michael. This was fun.
Yes, I certainly enjoyed it. It's always great to get those conversations about how we make our lives better, how we level up, and that ABL, always be learning. And that will help me and others with the ABCs of always be closing. So, viewers, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this. We appreciate you joining in on this conversation. Please do help us continue to grow 5am podcast with those delightful likes, shares, and subscribes. We appreciate it. And I'm sure that there's a name of somebody rolling around in your head thinking, boy, does Jim ever need to hear this conversation? He might be your boss, and that's okay. Just send it over to him and just tell him that Bethany thinks that he should listen to it. There's a way to play this off.
Own it. Own it. Man up.
Oh, there you go.
Look, hey, this is what we need to be like. We should be like this. Let's talk. Own it.
There you go. Don't blame it on Bethany. Own it. That's good. Good words. One more thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you could give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player, we would love that and appreciate it. And once again, thanks to those who've gone over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast and help support the show with those delicious virtual cups of coffee. So until next time, please seize your day, enjoy those sunrises and sunsets and all of those delightful adventures in between. I'm Michael Klassen. Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com.
Turn everyday teaching moments into a valuable lesson about long-term wealth preservation. Gold prices have historically risen during economic uncertainty. The time is now. Visit mindstandgold.com today and secure your family's future with your first gold purchase. Your children's financial future is too important to delay. Start their golden future at mindstandgold.com.